Across the Middle East, one ancient river is changing in ways few expected. As the waters of the Euphrates continue to fall, long-hidden ruins, forgotten artifacts, and unexplained discoveries are beginning to surface, raising questions that stretch far beyond archaeology. Are these simply the results of climate and time, or could they be revealing pieces of a much larger story that history has kept buried? In today's video, we'll explore what is being uncovered, why it matters, and the deeper meanings many believe are connected to these events. If you enjoy content that explores history, mystery, and discovery, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. The Euphrates River is not just another geographic landmark. For thousands of years, it has stood at the center of human civilization, shaping the rise and fall of empires that once defined the ancient world. Flowing through modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, the river watered the lands where some of the earliest cities ever built began to flourish. The Sumerians, Babylonians, and Assyrians all depended on its waters, transforming the surrounding plains into the fertile heart of early civilization. Because of this, historians often describe the Euphrates region as the cradle of civilization, a place where writing, law systems, and organized urban life first appeared. Beyond history, the river also holds deep religious significance. In Genesis 2:14, the Euphrates is named as one of the 4 rivers flowing from the Garden of Eden, placing it directly within the earliest biblical narrative of humanity. Later, it became a symbolic boundary in the history of Israel, and was repeatedly mentioned in prophetic passages describing future global events. This dual identity, both historical and prophetic, is one reason why any change affecting the Euphrates quickly captures worldwide attention. Throughout centuries, conquerors crossed the Euphrates to expand their territories. Trade caravans followed its banks, and entire populations built their lives around its seasonal rhythms. The river was not merely water flowing through land. It was an artery of survival, power, and cultural exchange. Even today, millions depend on it for agriculture, drinking water, and electricity generation through dam systems constructed along its course. When a river with such deep historical, economic, and spiritual importance begins to change dramatically, people do not see it as an ordinary environmental event. Instead, they sense that something larger may be unfolding, something tied not only to geography, but also to the long memory of human civilization itself. For generations, the people living along the Euphrates River believed its waters would remain a constant presence, flowing steadily through dry seasons and rainy ones, nourishing the land and sustaining the rhythm of daily life for millions. Yet over the past few decades, a slow but unmistakable transformation has begun to unfold. Areas that were once deep channels of moving water have gradually turned into narrow streams, winding through cracked fields of exposed mud. Boats that once traveled freely now sit stranded on newly revealed ground, silent reminders of a river that is steadily losing its strength. Satellite images collected over the years reveal a consistent decline in water levels, not a temporary fluctuation, but a long-term trend. Scientists point to multiple forces acting together: rising regional temperatures that accelerate evaporation, declining and unpredictable rainfall patterns, and extensive dam systems upstream that hold back significant portions of the river's natural flow for hydroelectric power and irrigation. Each factor alone might not dramatically transform the river, but together they are reshaping its entire ecosystem in ways that are becoming impossible to overlook. The consequences are visible far beyond scientific charts. Farmers watch their soil grow harder and less productive each season. Fishing communities that once depended on the river's abundance now struggle as fish populations shrink. Wetlands that once supported migrating birds and aquatic life gradually fade into quiet stretches of dry land. These changes do not happen overnight, yet their slow progression often makes them even more unsettling, as many people only realize the scale of transformation when the difference becomes too obvious to deny. For many observers, the shrinking of the Euphrates feels like more than an environmental shift. It resembles the gradual unveiling of history itself, because as the water retreats, the land beneath begins to reveal traces that have remained hidden for centuries. What was once considered the permanent floor of the river is now becoming newly exposed terrain, carrying with it the sense that something larger may be quietly emerging. As the Euphrates retreats, the exposed ground is revealing more than dry soil, it is uncovering entire fragments of forgotten history. Archaeological teams working in regions once submerged by reservoirs or deeper river channels have begun documenting the emergence of ancient settlements, defensive walls, pottery storage areas, and administrative structures dating back thousands of years. Some of these ruins belong to cities that were known only through written tablets and historical references, their exact locations lost over centuries of flooding and sediment accumulation. Now, with water levels falling, those same cities are slowly returning to the surface, offering researchers rare opportunities to examine structures that had remained hidden since antiquity. In several excavation sites, sealed clay jars containing cuneiform tablets have been discovered remarkably well preserved. These tablets may hold letters, trade records, or governmental communications that could reshape historians' understanding of political and economic life in Mesopotamia. Such finds are especially valuable because organic materials rarely survive in exposed desert environments, making any preserved written record a major scientific event. Each newly uncovered artifact adds another piece to the puzzle of how early civilizations organized themselves, managed resources, and interacted with neighboring cultures. Biblical history also intersects with these lands. The region surrounding the Euphrates is closely associated with ancient Babylon, a city repeatedly mentioned in both the Old and New Testaments as a symbol of power, wealth, and eventual judgment, Isaiah 13, Revelation 18. The resurfacing of Babylonian-era artifacts, therefore, carries significance beyond archaeology for many observers, who view these discoveries as reminders of historical cycles recorded in Scripture. Regardless of interpretation, the exposure of long-submerged cities demonstrates how environmental shifts can unexpectedly open windows into human history, allowing the modern world to encounter physical remnants of civilizations that once shaped the course of global development. Alongside legitimate archaeological findings, reports from local residents and independent explorers have added an additional layer of mystery to the unfolding story of the Euphrates. Photographs circulating online claim to show unusually large skeletal remains, unidentified animal carcasses preserved in hardened mud, and structures whose shapes do not immediately match known architectural styles. While many of these reports remain unverified and require scientific confirmation, their rapid spread across social media has fueled widespread curiosity and speculation. In regions where ancient legends and historical memory intertwine, even a single unusual discovery can quickly ignite discussions about lost civilizations, forgotten species, or events described in ancient texts. Some observers have drawn connections between these rumors and biblical passages referencing ancient giants, particularly Genesis 6-4, which mentions the Nephilim, mysterious figures described as mighty men of old. Though mainstream science has not confirmed any evidence supporting the existence of such beings, the symbolic power of these ancient narratives continues to shape how people interpret unusual discoveries emerging from historically significant regions. When the public encounters incomplete information paired with dramatic imagery, imagination often fills the gaps faster than verified research can respond. If you enjoy exploring the intersection of history, science, and mystery, remember to like this video so we can continue investigating these global stories together. Experts caution that many circulated images may be misidentified fossils, distorted perspectives, or digital fabrications, emphasizing the importance of careful verification before drawing conclusions. Nevertheless, the combination of authentic archaeological finds and unexplained claims has created an atmosphere in which the Euphrates once again occupies global attention. Whether these reports ultimately prove extraordinary or entirely ordinary, they highlight a recurring pattern in human history. Whenever the earth reveals something long hidden, curiosity rises immediately, reminding us how deeply humanity is drawn to the possibility that the past still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. For many observers, the significance of the Euphrates is not limited to geography or archaeology. Its repeated appearance in biblical prophecy has led some to watch current developments with heightened attention. Revelation 16:12 describes a future moment when the great river Euphrates dries up, preparing the way for major events in the prophetic timeline. Because of this passage, every measurable decline in the river's water level attracts discussion far beyond environmental science, drawing theologians, historians, and ordinary readers of Scripture into the conversation. Another frequently cited reference appears in Revelation 9:14-15, which speaks of 4 angels bound at the great river Euphrates, awaiting a specific appointed time. Interpretations of this passage vary widely. Some understand the imagery symbolically, representing historical powers or future geopolitical events, while others interpret it more literally, seeing it as part of a sequence of supernatural judgments described in apocalyptic literature. Regardless of interpretation, the consistent biblical emphasis on this river gives it a symbolic weight that few other geographic locations possess. If you appreciate exploring how ancient texts connect with modern events, don't forget to like this video and support deeper research into these topics. Throughout history, major prophetic discussions have often intensified whenever physical locations mentioned in Scripture undergo visible transformation. The drying of the Euphrates therefore becomes more than a regional environmental story. For many believers, it becomes a point of reflection about how historical processes and spiritual expectations intersect. Whether one interprets the biblical passages as literal future events, symbolic spiritual warnings, or historical metaphors, the ongoing changes surrounding the river continue to encourage renewed interest in texts written thousands of years ago, demonstrating how ancient writings still influence modern perspectives on global developments. It is no coincidence that whenever a lost city, a buried structure, or an ancient artifact is discovered, global attention quickly follows. Humanity has always been deeply fascinated by things that once disappeared from history and suddenly return to view. When an object emerges after hundreds or even thousands of years, it is not merely an archaeological finding, it feels like an unexpected doorway opening, allowing the present moment to touch the distant past. The transformation of the Euphrates creates precisely this emotional effect. As the waters recede, not only soil and stone appear, but also the physical memory of ancient civilizations begins to take shape again. Crumbling walls, forgotten foundations, fragments of pottery, and ancient inscriptions surface like scattered pieces of an unfinished historical narrative. What makes these discoveries especially powerful is not only their historical value, but the sense that they have remained silent for centuries, waiting for a moment when they would finally be seen again. Psychologists suggest that such moments awaken a form of collective memory, a feeling that history is not entirely behind us, but still exists just beneath the surface of the modern world. When a long-buried structure emerges from the earth, it prompts deeper questions. How many other remnants remain hidden? How many stories are still waiting to be rediscovered? And could what is appearing today represent only a small fragment of a much larger historical picture that humanity has yet to fully understand? This is what gives the discoveries surrounding the Euphrates their unusual power. They do not capture attention only because they belong to one of the earliest centers of civilization, but because they remind us that time does not erase everything. Sometimes it simply covers things temporarily. And when conditions change, what was once buried can return, inviting the modern world to confront the enduring traces of its own past. Scientific analysis approaches the transformation of the Euphrates through measurable data: rainfall decline, temperature increases, dam construction, and long-term water management practices. From this perspective, The river's shrinking flow is the result of environmental and technological factors that can be modeled, studied, and potentially mitigated through policy decisions. Hydrologists track water levels, climate researchers analyze atmospheric patterns, and regional planners evaluate how irrigation demands influence river systems. Within this framework, the drying river represents a serious but explainable environmental challenge rather than a mysterious event. At the same time, public perception often moves along a different path. Many individuals interpret dramatic natural changes through cultural, spiritual, or symbolic frameworks shaped by tradition and belief. When a river repeatedly mentioned in sacred texts undergoes visible transformation, emotional responses naturally accompany scientific explanations. Joel 2:30 speaks metaphorically of wonders in the heavens and on the earth, reminding readers that natural phenomena have historically been interpreted as meaningful signs, especially during periods of social uncertainty or global change. These two perspectives, scientific explanation and symbolic interpretation, do not necessarily cancel one another. Instead, they often operate simultaneously, addressing different human needs. Science seeks to understand mechanisms and causes, while symbolic interpretation explores meaning and cultural significance. The ongoing story of the Euphrates demonstrates how a single environmental transformation can generate multiple layers of discussion, combining climatology, archaeology, theology, and psychology into a single global conversation that continues to evolve as new information emerges. History shows that the fate of major civilizations has often been closely tied to the stability of the rivers that sustained them. When water supplies shifted, whether through drought, changing river courses, or environmental degradation, societies built around those resources frequently faced economic stress, migration pressures, and eventual political instability. Ancient Mesopotamia itself provides several examples, as shifting waterways gradually altered agricultural productivity and trade routes, contributing to the weakening of once powerful city-states. The same pattern has appeared in many other regions of the world, demonstrating how environmental change can quietly reshape historical trajectories over generations. The Euphrates has already witnessed multiple cycles of flourishing and decline. Empires such as Babylon rose along its banks, dominated surrounding territories, and eventually disappeared, leaving behind ruins that now lie beneath layers of sediment. Isaiah 41:18 symbolically describes God's ability to make rivers flow on barren heights, reflecting the ancient understanding that water availability could transform entire landscapes and determine the bias. Survival of nations. When a river that has historically supported millions begins to change significantly, historians naturally ask whether similar long-term societal consequences could once again unfold. Modern infrastructure and technology offer tools that ancient civilizations never possessed, yet dependence on water resources remains just as critical today as it was thousands of years ago. The lessons of history suggest that monitoring river systems is not merely an environmental concern, but also a strategic necessity, reminding modern societies that even highly advanced civilizations remain closely tied to the natural systems that sustain them. For thousands of years, the Euphrates River has stood at the crossroads of history, religion, and civilization. Its waters nourished the earliest cities, supported empires that shaped global culture, and appeared repeatedly in sacred writings that continue to influence billions of people. Today, as its levels decline and hidden ruins emerge from beneath its surface, the river once again commands worldwide attention. Archaeologists study the newly revealed sites, environmental scientists monitor changing climate conditions, and observers across the world reflect on the symbolic meaning that many traditions associate with this ancient waterway. Moments like this invite humanity to pause and reconsider the long arc of history. Luke 12:54-56 records a teaching in which people are encouraged to observe the signs of changing seasons and understand their significance. Whether interpreted scientifically, historically, or spiritually, the transformation of the Euphrates reminds us that natural changes can carry far-reaching consequences, influencing economies, ecosystems, and cultural narratives simultaneously. A river that once defined the birth of civilization is now revealing layers of the past that had remained hidden for generations. Ultimately, the question surrounding the Euphrates is not only what is being uncovered beneath its drying waters, but also what humanity chooses to learn from it. Every ancient structure exposed, every artifact recovered, and every environmental shift observed serves as a reminder that history is never completely buried. Sometimes, when the waters recede, the past returns not merely to be studied, but to prompt reflection about where civilization has come from and where it may be heading next.